All right, so what I'm about to share with you is literally some German voodoo magic. I honestly don't know what else to call it. So I recently went on a 2,600 mile 10-day trip on the East Coast. Right before the trip, we installed Wilbers suspension on my 24 Street Glide. I had previous experiences with it. We installed it on Oscar's bike last year, but I got to really ride with it day after day in a lot of different environments. And I want to share with you my thoughts in this video. And I thought it was super important to do that while everything's fresh in my memory. So let's dive in. Welcome back, bikeaholics. Ryan Urlacher here, lawabidingbiker.com. Always thank you for checking back in. All right, so I'm gonna be all over the place in this video, so I apologize. I will try to keep it in somewhat of an order, but I have a lot of thoughts on Wilbers suspension and my experiences, and I wanna get them out to you so you can make a decision whether you wanna get hooked up with Wilbers suspension. Now, like I stated, a year ago, we put it on Oscar's bike. I did a very detailed video on that, and that was his CVO Ultra. In that video, and I'll link to it in the description below, pop it on the screen here for you, I was super impressed. We were super impressed. We were really taken back by the Wilbers LDC Nivomat front and rear kit that we do sell in the Law Abiding Biker store. But we were taken back, and I took it through alleys with like man-sized potholes. I jumped speed bumps. We went through construction zones, and we compared it to other suspensions. With that said, I have a lot of experiences with Legends and OHLINS, Progressive. We sell that stuff in the store too. Any suspension that you get is gonna be better than stock. Just know that. Also, with my experiences with suspension, it doesn't hold true on all items on your bike, but in suspension particularly, you get what you pay for. So what I mean is the more you spend, the better suspension you're gonna get. And that definitely holds true kind of across the line. And so going back to the video of Oscar's bike, not only is that a full detailed review video, but it's a very detailed installation video. Everything step by step that you need to know on how to install Wilbers suspension on your Harley. If you go to the store listing for Wilbers suspension in the Law Abiding Biker store, like a lot of our products that we test and review, at the bottom of the listing, there's the actual video. I definitely say go take a look at that video after you watch this one. All right, and so once I tested Wilbers on Oscar's bike a year ago, we were so impressed. We're bringing this to the Law Abiding Biker store. We want to be able to get this into the hands of bikers out there. We back it, we trust it, we really, really like it. And so we appreciate you ordering from the Law Abiding Biker store. A lot of you have taken advantage of that. We are just a bootstrap company of bikers trying to help as many bikers as we can worldwide. In fact, we're selling so many of them. Wilbers sends customers to us, and we really appreciate that relationship. And again, the reason is because we can really back the suspension. When you order from the Law Abiding Biker store, it is a custom order process, but you just order the suspension, and then we're gonna get a hold of you after we see your order come in. One of the guys at the store will email you. We're gonna need some specifics on you as far as your weight, make, model, year of bike, your passenger weight, and a few other items. And then we will get it out to you. Usually it'll arrive on your doorstep somewhere about 7 days after we get the information that we need from you. So I'm gonna dive deeper into my experiences with Wilbers, and I will tell you this. You guys know me on this channel and the podcast we just did this. It takes a lot for me to gawk at something, and I try not to, and I just do fair reviews, and there's a lot of good stuff, but it really takes something like impressive for me to get over that line to where I'm gonna gawk a little bit in this video. And simply put, it's because it's German voodoo magic. So just a little bit of background. By no means am I trashing any other suspension. Like I say, any suspension that you get aftermarket is better than stock, but definitely Wilbers, as I'm gonna describe here, stands at the top. On my previous 14 Street Glide Special, I had OHLINS cartridge kit, NICS 22 up front, and on the rear, I had the S36 Blackline suspension. Amazing suspension. We sell it in the store. In that video I mentioned, which I've linked to in the description below, where we did Oscar's bike, at the end of that video, I actually kind of do a head-to-head comparison of the OHLINS I just mentioned and the Wilbers LDC Nivomat Suspension kit. And I give a lot of details. I'm not going to give all those again, but simply put, they both ride really, really great. And you would be happy with both, and certainly we can get either in your hands. But I will say, and I will dive in a little bit deeper here, that for touring, especially after my experiences, Wilbers is kind of going to stand on the top, especially for a touring application. Now, with that said, during my recent 10-day trip, I got to ride a lot of different roads. When I did the original video, it was kind of local, and I spent a day with it and took it through some extreme conditions in that video. On this trip, I got to ride it day after day. We did Tail of the Dragon. We did another road, which I will be doing a video on that's better than Tail of the Dragon, coming soon. But a lot of corners, and that's what I really hadn't got to experience, is kind of the front end and how it was going to react when I was pushing really hard in the corners. So I want to break that down a little bit for you. So first, let's just talk about some of the different environments I rode with the Wilbers on this trip. Nashville, if you didn't know, we were there outside of the major tourist area. Their streets are absolute shit. And a lot of cities are like that. Milwaukee, we rode last year, that crazy man-sized potholes like take you out, train tracks, all kinds of stuff. So I got to experience it in those environments. And honestly, riding my police motorcycle every day, my Electroglide, I'm used to having to stand up a little bit when you see tracks coming or a big bump that you misjudged. You've all seen it. You stand up a little bit so that your spine doesn't take that and your back. And let's face it, the stock suspension on Harleys and a lot of different bikes, it's just standard suspension. And so, you know, aftermarket's going to be much better. We all know that. And so I would watch the guys in front of me. I was riding in a group, and literally when we went over those bumps and tracks, I had to remind myself that I have Wilbers. And to trust it, because I remember on Oscar's bike how well it did. And so once I remembered I don't need to stand up, the guys in front of me with all the stock suspension, they would have to stand up over those tracks. A lot of them got bucked off their seat. You know what I'm talking about, where you hit the bump and it bucked their butts off the seat. In fact, a couple of them, the rear wheel lurch saw come off the ground. I sat through all of that, and it didn't jar my lower back, which my lower back is not the best. It took it like a champ. It didn't bottom out. That's what surprises me the most about Wilbers, is it's really hard. You know when you bottom out suspension. Can you do it? It's extreme to get it to do that. And I never did on any of the actual real life stuff that we rode through. It just took it like a champ. It's hard for me to put into words. Again, I don't understand all the technology. Lurch explains it better than me. Make sure you tune into the Law Abiding Biker podcast, where we talk about stuff like this in a whole bunch more detail, and we have a lot of fun doing it. But he knows a little bit more of the technical. It's German voodoo magic. That's all I can say. And I say that with a smile, because once you get on this, you'll realize exactly what I'm talking about. So with that said, it's hard to put into words. So the best I can do is, it's weird from all other suspensions that I've rode, because I want to say it's like riding a sofa down the road, but that can have a negative connotation with it in your mind. So with that said, you're thinking it's a floaty, bouncy suspension. It's not. It will take those potholes and speed bumps or whatever it is, and it will feel, it takes all the shock out of it, obviously, like they're supposed to do. But it feels like a sofa, but it doesn't float. And the rebound, the way they have the rebound set up is amazing. So it's a very controlled rebound. You don't get the even pothole after pothole. It takes it and it rebounds, and you don't realize it's doing it, but there's no floaty feeling. It's a little bit like riding on air. Again, this may not make any sense in your mind, and it still doesn't to me. You really have to ride on it to understand what I'm talking about. And I'm doing this video because I'm so impressed with it, and I'm sure I am gawking just a little bit, but it's well deserved. When you order from the Law Abiding Biker store, we'll get all that information from you, but we only sell it in a kit. The reason we do that is we want you to have the fullest experience. The suspension was designed from the ground up to work together. So you get the Nivomat rears and you get the progressive springs for the front. Again, our video, do not pay a dealership to do this, guys. You can do it yourself. It's not, we'll walk you through it in that video. But those go together. You wouldn't want to just get one or the other because you're going to be missing half the experience. Also, the rear is the most expensive part, and it's not that much more to just get the front anyways, and so that's why we just sell it in a kit. All right, so front end and cornering, which I really got to experience on, like I say, Tail of the Dragon and other roads. It is progressive springs, and if you don't know what that is, it basically means they're at one end they're tighter, and at the other end they're spread out more. And that's to give, the way those are designed is to give a controlled front end dive at a controlled rate, so to speak, depending on how those are set up. The way they set it up and whatever they used as far as their specs on that, amazing front end dive. And so going into a corner, riding very aggressively, of course, I'll grab a lot of front brake, and you'll see that front end dive and the forks go down. You've all seen that. And then depending on the corner, some controlled trail braking through it, depending on how sharp the corner is and things like that. But with that said, I just wanted you to understand what I mean by front end dive. Stock suspension, if you go up to a traffic light and hit it, it's gonna dive, and it's bouncy, it's weird. This is stiff but not too stiff. And again, the biggest thing I look for is controlled. It's not sloppy. It's a rather smooth, even rate when my forks really go down when I'm going into that corner. And so again, that's why we want to sell it in a kit. And so just a little bit of comparison. Remember, I did on my 14 Street Glide have the OHLINS Nix 22 cartridge kits up front. And so with that kit, it's really, really good. It's amazing in the corners. Again, I'm not trying to bash any other suspension here, but with that, you do get, the cartridges have adjustment, a little bit of adjustment up front, and how you want that to react. So why I'm bringing that up is I was wondering with the Wilbers, would I want any adjustment? Did I feel like I lacked any adjustment? And honestly, I didn't. The way they have the remember, OHLINS is the cartridges, the ones that I had. Again, amazing. But I don't feel like on a touring bike, even pushing it, I couldn't have went any faster with OHLINS. Let me put it that way, if that makes it easy. Now, if you were out on a track, an actual race track, and you were racing people, yeah, maybe you would want, the cartridge kit and some adjustment. That's not the majority of riders. I couldn't have rode the Tail of the Dragon or any of the other roads any faster with the OHLINS. So again, I was taking all this in on the trip, but I just had to share a lot of this stuff with you. But the way they have the front end set up and the way it works with the rear, even in aggressive cornering as fast as I could do safely, giving margins for error and things like that, I have nothing bad to say about the Wilbers. All right, so I want to wrap this up just a little bit and try to put this in a nice, neat little package. A couple things. The guys that I was riding on the trip with the 10-day, they're like all asking me about Wilbers suspension because they realize, and they rode behind me sometimes too, and I didn't have to stand over tracks and bumps, and they were just amazed at how the bike handled. The rear wheel didn't come off the road. So, and they hear me talk about it, and you can see it hopefully, just how excited. I don't always get this excited about products, but this is really next level. I dare say that Wilbers, in my opinion, for a touring bike, is by far the best. I also want to say this. A lot of guys, I get it. You get a new bike, you go out, you deck it out with, of course, you got to put your biker gripper cell phone mount, your Cero cup holder, your biker bobble girl, some things like that. but you all want to go get intake and exhaust, and you want to maybe do a stage kit, and you want to get chrome or black everything. And you know, I will tell you this, having toured for many, many years, people miss the mark. The biggest thing that will change the rideability and comfort of your bike, not only like I talked about in corners and tracks and just handling, overall handling of your bike, is by far going to be suspension. So it's so funny that it gets missed. So I would just ask you to change your mindset a little bit. Get the other stuff later. Suspension will change the entire way that your touring bike feels. I know that's hard to wrap our head around. Probably second, which we're not going to get into, is seat. And the reason I just talk about those upgrades and what you should consider first is because I know Wilbers is definitely not the cheapest suspension, but it's right in there close to the OHLINS kit that I talked about. But it's really money well spent. You absolutely will not be disappointed with Wilbers. We haven't had one complaint. And so a year ago, we did bring that Wilbers LDC Nivomat to the store. Understand, we're so impressed with Wilbers. We want to keep getting it in bikers' hands. We are adding over time other makes and models. So just keep checking back in the Law Abiding Biker store. Certainly if you don't see something and you have a question on whether you can get it for your bike, just go over to the Law Abiding Biker store and hit up our contact form. There's a contact right at the top menu, and email us, and one of our guys will be very happy to assist you. All right, and anything I talked about in this video as far as links, videos, products, Wilbers, I will put in the description below to make it very easy for you to click through. Wilbers had nothing to do with the first video or the second video. We sell this stuff in our store, and the opinions I give you in this video were 100% mine based on real world experience. And I hope I didn't gawk too much. I leave you with, it's German voodoo magic. Get out there and ride.
Hey, I'ma get right in my bag. Why you gonna try to get mad? Everybody wanna keep up. Don't you know I move too fast? I'ma zip right past. Drip all on my swag. Why you trying to size me up? You don't wanna try your luck. How does the stove? What did you know? Burn like coal, yeah, you know I go. Way too hot, yeah, I really too cold.